The transformation approach in brief, we have the first point, leveraging some existing capabilities and enhancing others will be required for successful transformation. Because companies usually have capabilities that are already in place, but they will have to enhance them as part of the transformation and use some of the existing capabilities as is. And some new capabilities will have to be created as well. There are three patterns of transformation approach: initiation, governance, and execution. Now, previously, we have discussed the four layers of transformation, which also included governance apart from positioning, execution, and learning. Here, we also have, once again, governance and execution, but we have initiation pattern also. Now, these governance and execution patterns are different from the governance and execution layers because previously, the governance layer is about direction and boundary setting. The execution layer was about the change implementation methods or techniques based on the context, like ordered, complex, chaotic, or confused. But here it's a bit different. We will be covering these patterns in the section 3 in more detail, but patterns are the approaches to address the context analysis and the scoping of the transformation, as well as situational assessment and approach selection for any initiative or activity within the transformation. So very briefly, the initiation pattern will be the trigger for transformation. So for example, the trigger for a transformation could be regulation or the business structure change, could be technology driven, could be internal improvement or the market demand. We will look at these 5 triggers in more detail as part of the initiation pattern. So in summary, the initiation pattern is nothing but just the triggers for transformation. Then there is the governance pattern. There are several of these governance patterns which are related to standard governance concepts of stakeholder engagement to evaluate, direct, and monitor. Execution is about the chosen approach for any specific initiative or activity. For example, when it is an ordered context where everything is clearly understood, then it is just go and implement a best practice or a known method. Whereas if it is a complex context with uncertainty, then there is a need to discover through some experimentation and then learn from it in retrospect. If it is a chaotic context where things are absolutely not clear, that will require urgent response, immediate response, and that is known as contain execution pattern. Therefore, we have a different execution pattern: implement, discover, and contain. So this is, we are touching on these terms at a very superficial level. As we move forward, you will get a lot of clarity on this. But, the story of transformation has already started, as you can see it and realize it. Then we have stage. A stage is a sequence of steps taken as part of carrying out the transformation to move from one stage to another. Yes, of course, stage, as you know, is always moving from one stage to another. But in every stage, there are a sequence of steps as part of the transformation. And once a stage is over, the completion of those steps of those stage will indicate movement to the next stage, which can start. The movement between the stages is bidirectional to allow corrections based on feedback. In the context of one initiative, it starts from the left and needs to get to the right eventually. And there are 12 stages. There will be a depiction of the stages very soon. Until then, please hold on to a bit of theory and just understand it very superficially. Step is an integral part of the transformation flow, consisting of context-specific activities required to reach the outcome of that step. So what this means is stages and steps will be covered in section 2, which has 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. And so, for example, in the governance layer, we have the initiate stage, which connects the organization vision to transformation activities. And within that, we also have the envision step within the initiate stage, in which the transformation path linked to the organization vision is also defined. In fact, there are more steps in the initiate stage, and there is one more stage also um, in the governance layer, And in total, we have 2 stages and 8 steps in the governance layer. Similarly, it works for the other layer. For example, the positioning layer will have its own set of stages and and some steps in each of those stages. And now, right now, this may appear a bit complex or confusing or unclear at the moment, but do not worry about it. As we make progress, you will be able to connect all the dots very well, I assure you. Then the 12 stages. Let's take a quick look at what these are. Observe is a stage which is continual and sits outside an individual transformation. Reflect, which is also continual but transformation specific. Remaining stages are initiate, orchestrate, orient, decide, clarify, prepare, deliver, evaluate, adapt, and synthesize. So the observe stage, as we can see here, sits outside the individual transformation. So it's about observing everything that is happening even outside of the transformation. There may be external factors that can impact the transformation. So that's just a clue as to how to understand stages, but then there is more coming afterwards. We are at the tip of the iceberg now. The 24 steps across all patterns are as follows: connect, envision, baseline, define, map, structure, prioritize, scope, interpret, calibrate, assess, select, appraise, plan, do, study, act, bound, design, run, examine, distill, stabilize, and integrate. So we can see that so far we have seen the 4 layers of transformation, 3 patterns of transformation approach, 12 stages, and 24 steps. So throughout this course, we will be going through these and concluding by clearly understanding each and every of these things or concepts, such as the 4 layers, the 3 patterns, the 12 stages, and the 24 steps, and how these all link to each other properly. The premises of transformation. Now, before we begin, we have to acknowledge that transformation is based on certain beliefs and assumptions. We will understand the difference between disruptive and uncertain change. So here, the first premise or assumption is change is disruptive but manageable. Organization change affects all 4 dimensions of product and service management and presents challenges for everyone involved. So we need to acknowledge this challenge because people have to learn new skills and work in new ways, let go of the old way of working. Therefore, it is not just about the technology change, but also human aspects, even emotional adjustment to new situations and relationships, even build new working relationships and networks. And these can be a struggle and quite stressful due to the disruption from the transformation. There can be uncertainty. There can be issues with building new relationships or ongoing new relationships. Also, to perform the existing role as is while trying to master new skills. Think about all that. If you are a leader or a manager, think how this could be challenging for your own staff, your own employees who report to you, and maybe a little bit for yourself as well. Then the next point here is successful transformation recognize these human challenges and address them through appropriate support, clear communication, and reasonable timelines that reflect the complexity of adaptation. Which means that the organizations that account for these people factors experience smoother transitions, less resistance, and higher engagement. Which means that they can turn disruptive periods that are likely to occur into opportunities for growth and improvement. Now, for the exam, you can have questions on some of these concepts. So you need to recognize, you need to remember at least these headings, such as change is disruptive but manageable. And the other one here is change is uncertain and requires navigation. Let me read this now. Rigid assumption-based change plans are prone to failure. And so what it means is this is due to organizational complexity and uncertainty about the current operational state and how the organization will react to new approaches. And therefore, a practical approach will have to accept that rigid assumption-based change plans are prone to failure. Therefore, starting with what is known while acknowledging gaps in understanding is needed, and also taking smaller steps that can be adjusted as new information emerges. Learning from each action rather than blindly following predetermined plans. Adapting direction based on actual results rather than sticking to original assumptions. So, what this means is this flexible approach is like navigating the um, scenario rather than following a fixed map. And this way, organizations move step by step in the right direction, continuously reassessing and adjusting as they learn. Most successful transformation embrace uncertainty and the risks instead of trying to eliminate it. And they also create a safe environment for learning and adaptation, allowing progress even when the path is not completely clear from the start. At the bottom, we have there are some other premises mentioned in the official book for transformation. These are not part of the exam syllabus. You may want to take a look at the book yourself if you're interested, but this is not included for the exam. So the three here are as follows. The first is change does not happen in isolation. Second, change respects people, and change is guided without the illusion of control. But for the exam, you must recollect these two, that the change is disruptive but manageable, and change is uncertain and requires navigation.